Well, good morning. It is the Tuesday in Holy Week, Tuesday, April 7th, as we continue our journey towards the cross. And this morning I am standing next to a lemon tree without any lemons, which seems like a strange thing to be doing, but there is a method to my madness, because what we are told is that this morning on Holy Tuesday, as Jesus is coming back to Jerusalem from Bethany, where he spent the night with his disciples and his friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, he's hungry, and he sees this fig tree. He goes up to the fig tree hoping to find a fig, but there are none. And so he curses that fig tree, which is kind of a strange, not very Jesus-like thing of him to do. So why does he do that? Well, if you understand a little bit of the history of the people of Israel, some of the prophecy, some of Jesus's history, and then the day that he's about to have his cursing of the fig tree begins to make a little bit more sense. So again, if you look at prophecies in the Old Testament, there are a lot of tree language. You look at Isaiah chapter 11, there's this prophecy that a shoot will come out of the stump of Jesse, who is King David's father, and a branch shall come forth from his root. And that shoot, that branch that is referred to in Isaiah, is Jesus, the Messiah. Although it's interesting, he talks not about the tree of Jesse, he talks about the stump of Jesse, as if the royal lineage has been cut off, which of course it had, due to the faithlessness of Israel and God sending other nations to come in and invade them and scatter them across the earth. If you look in the books of Hosea and Jeremiah, both of those prophetic books have passages where they talk about Israel being a fig tree. In Jeremiah, it talks about Israel being a fig tree without any figs. And so in this context, we see that Jesus cursing the fig tree is a statement about the faithlessness of Israel. And of course, if you look in Jesus' ministry, he talks a lot about vegetation, about trees. He says, "I am the vine and you are the branches." He says to his disciples that you will know trees by their fruit. He's talking about false prophets. He says, by their fruit you will know them. And of course, he's coming to this fig tree. He's coming to Jerusalem. He's finding Israel's tree to be without fruit. Perhaps most strikingly, before Jesus shows up on the scene, there's John the Baptist, who's that wild man out in the wilderness, baptizing people, eating locusts and wild honey. And when the Pharisees and Sadducees come out to see him and criticize him, he calls them a brood of vipers, and he says, even now the axe is at the foot of the tree, ready to chop it down, ready to chop down your tree. And do not think that God cannot raise up new followers, new descendants of Abraham. Don't depend so much on your ethnicity, your Jewish heritage. It's more about faithfulness and repentance. So that's the history. But as we come to today, to Holy Tuesday, Jesus goes back into Jerusalem, back into the temple, and there he contends, he dukes it out again with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the teachers of the law, the religious authorities. He tells all these parables against them. The parable of the two sons, the one who was faithful, the one who was not. The parable of the wicked tenants who did not manage God's property properly and actually put the manager's son to death. The parable of the wedding banquet, where none of the guests get in, but all the blind, the lame, the beggars, the sinners, they're the ones who get in. And in turn, again, the Pharisees, Sadducees challenge Jesus about his authority, where he's from, where he gets his power from. This is when they bring him that coin with Caesar's head on it and ask him, should we pay taxes or not? They're trying to catch Jesus, either being disloyal to his Jewish heritage or disloyal to the empire, trying to get him to say something that will lead him to being condemned. And this goes on all day long. I encourage you to look at Matthew chapters 21 through 25, because Jesus at the end talks about the end of the world, very apocalyptic. He sees what is coming down the pike towards the latter part of the week, and he's talking in very dire terms. And then finally, as this day ends and he's headed out of Jerusalem again, back to Bethany, he sort of looks over his shoulder and sees Jerusalem once again and laments for them. He says, how I longed to gather you to myself as a hen gathers her chicks beneath her wings, but you would not. Jesus wants nothing more than for Jerusalem, the people of Jerusalem, to come to faith in him, and yet they constantly reject him. And so that's our lesson for today to think about the faithlessness of us as people, and the fact that Jesus comes to die for faithless people like us who reject him, and to actually make us into a fruitful tree by his sheer grace and mercy. I hope you have a good day today on this Holy Tuesday, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.